Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
What I see happen quite a bit in people's lives is that they allow their life to get out of control, and it's not even on purpose. It's almost as if you buy a brand new car, you say in the first day, I'm going to love this thing. I'm going to love this baby. I'm going to take it to the car wash. I'm going to make sure that there's no dirt inside. There's no dirt outside. I'm going to cherish this car forever. But something happens along the way where we start to get busy. The car just becomes a car. And this can happen in all aspects of our life. A relationship just becomes a relationship. A family member just becomes another person we see on a holiday, Thanksgiving or Christmas. Our loved ones just because someone we roommate with or house with. Our kids just become a responsibility. All of this is to say that there's going to be different levels of how people can assume something is or someone is. What happens often is that we fail to understand the capacity to what that person is or what that person isn't, because we're so busy in our own world, in our own realm. This happens often when we get overly stressed, when we get overly burdened. There's a lot of things going on. And so this overload, in a sense, stops us from paying attention in the small moments, in the big moments, because we can be in a moment for a minute. That is not so much of the issue. But when we have to be in that moment for a prolonged period of time, whether it be because of focus or because it's going to propel us and project something better for us, we should have some level of control in those areas rather than just saying, well, when I'm in the mood, I'll do it. Or when happenstance works in my favor, then everything is going to be allotted. This is to say that we need to get back control of when the world is going crazy. Now, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the mind? Oftentimes, when we start to associate craziness or overwhelm, we start to look at the mindset and we say that it feels heavy. We start to understand that this mental overload is not going to be helpful for us long term. So what we have to do is we have to regain control. Now, luckily for us, we have this new article here, When Life Feels Heavy, Understanding Mental Overload and How to Regain Control. One of the things we have to understand is that life is not going to just magically get hard. Of course, there's going to be things that can happen that can kind of throw a wrench in your gear, and you can say, wow, that really threw me for a loop. Think of it this way. The Titanic hit an iceberg and sank. It didn't hit one iceberg and it had a hole in it. It didn't hit another iceberg and then there was a mayday warning. It was like, boom, we messed up. We're sinking. There's no way to fix it, right? Abandoned ship. Now, in our life, sometimes that can happen, right? We can hit that iceberg. But for the majority of people, it's not going to be the iceberg that sinks them. It's going to be all the little things they bumped and nicked along the way. They're going to hit something big like a snag in their career. Maybe they don't like a boss or a co-worker. They don't like the work anymore. It's overwhelming. Maybe there's a snag in their relationship or in the family or just in themselves and their body, their mind. All of these different things, right, can cause overwhelm. And if you start to tack things on, whether it be I'm worrying about my relationship right now, maybe you found out your partner cheating on you, or maybe you found out that they had another family. I guess that's cheating. They were doing things wrong, like gambling all your money away. So there could be some problems there, right? Your career, maybe you find out the company is going under and you're not going to have a job in 2 weeks. For your family, maybe you found out one of your kids is doing some type of drug, narcotic, hanging out with the wrong people. All of this, even though it might not be your problem directly, becomes your problem all of a sudden. Now, it's the little things that add up to the big things, they say, where this mental overload is going to be all the little bit of stresses that you have. Your boss is nagging at you. Your partner is nagging at you. Your kids are nagging at you. Your dog and your pet is nagging at you. And before you know, you're like, man, I just need a break. I just need to run away. And what happens for the majority of people when they choose to run away, it's not, I'm going to do the things that are going to help me recover. I'm going to do the things that are going to help distract me from how I'm feeling. So they will pick up their smartphones. They will go do something that is going to distract them, like going out with the friends or the boys and go drinking, and the girls go drinking and clubbing and dancing. We do those things almost as a stress relief. But just because we do those things to forget, it doesn't mean the real world problems that we were dealing with are going to magically vanish. Now, this is not to say that all problems won't go away with time. They say time heals all wounds. But what happens with mental overload is that we take a personal responsibility for what is happening to some degree. I'm responsible for this, so I need to worry about that. But this is all to say that we're not going to have control over everything. And so we need to structure our life in a way of, can I make sure I don't get overloaded or I get burnt out or I feel as if the stress is unbearable? What can I do to manage it? Now, of course, we can give you tips and tricks on how to manage stress. You can get coaching or therapy, and you can start this idea of, I'm doing the work to manage my stress. But it's not so much of managing your stress, because if you think of it as manage, it can be in the wrong mindset. Think of it this way. You go to the container store, and the container store has hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of containers. They have drawers, they have big ones and small ones. They have large cabinets. And this is to say that if you decided to allocate or manage your stress, you can just put all of these stresses in a drawer, right? You can say, I need a stress drawer for that. I need a stress drawer for this. And before you know it, everything is organized. So when someone looks at your life, they go, wow, you have everything going for you, right? It's the same thing or the same concept as you have skeletons in your closet. You're sweeping things under the rug. You're choosing not to pay attention to the problem. You're just raising up the volume and you're hoping it will go away. Well, that's not the structure that we should be looking at. We should be looking at a structure for when we start to feel overload. How can we start to fix things? I remember when I was growing up, for some reason, our mentality was, if something was broken, let's mend it. It wasn't, let's fix it, let's mend it. And of course, there's going to be times when you want to mend things. If you're out on a hike, for example, and you fall and you start gushing blood, you're going to want to stop. You're going to want to mend the injury. Now, there's a good probability that if there was a big injury, a big gash, you're going to have to go to the hospital to get some stitches. You're not going to just say, oh, well, I stopped the bleeding on the hike and I don't have to go in, right? There's going to be common sense that has to be there. This is all to say that we are going to have big problems. We're going to have little problems. And for the big problems, we have to give more attention to, right? That structure. Well, when we were growing up, the mending we would do required duct tape. If we had duct tape, we could make things work, right? And I remember one time, like our dog, she broke the window for, the door, the screen door. And you know what we did? We just got some duct tape and we just made a new window of duct tape, okay? And if you know anything about duct tape, once that sun hits that duct tape, the duct tape loses all of that stickiness. It loses all of that durability. It begins to become brittle. It starts to powder down, like the glue section. So it's not as strong. It's not cohesive anymore. And eventually it's just going to fall off. And another time, I'll give you an example. The fence that we had, and we had to have the fence for the dogs so the dogs didn't run away. So I remember going out there with some duct tape and I wrapped the fence, I wrapped the fence with duct tape. And my dad would always bring new duct tape home from work. And I said, okay, cool, this fence is fixed. But little did I know the sun will come by and say, hey, duct tape, how you doing? And sure enough, it will shrivel up the duct tape. It will lose all stickiness. It will lose all strength. And then now the fence is broken again. So I was in the mindset of mending. I was in the mindset of giving temporary fixes, thinking it's going to be the final solution, where, yeah, sure, it worked for a while, but now it's no longer working. What do I do? Am I a person that's just going to keep on putting duct tape on things, or am I going to look at how can I fix this screen door? How can I fix this fence? How can I fix the situation or the life or the problem? All of this is to say that there is a structure to things. And if you are just a contractor and you drill a hole in one of your plumbing pipes, guess what? Duct tape ain't going to cut it. You need to cut out the piece that's broken, and you need to create one of those connectors there, right? You have to create a fix, where we don't look at it that way in our life. We just say, okay, what can we do for the time being? And let's hope it lasts. Let's just hope that the boat will make it to the shore, even though we are already sinking, right? We hit the iceberg. It's too late. Now, this is the idea of awareness in our life, because if we know that we are doing this and we're being counterproductive to regaining control in our life, then we have to look at why we are doing that. Are we just a person who doesn't know how to manage things? We don't know how to structure things? Or is it something that we need to undo because what we have learned is not helpful? Because I couldn't imagine my wife being happy with me, in a sense, if something was broken in the house and I got some duct tape. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I got a roll of duct tape because you never know when you need it. But that duct tape is very rarely used. It's like once every 4 or 5 months for something small. And I'm talking about, we use it every single day. When I was living up in Connecticut in the ghetto, that was basically our axe. That was our tool, right? The tool for the toolbox was duct tape, and we got a lot of things done, right? But again, the duct tape didn't last long enough. We needed something longer term. Now, like I said, we're bringing some attention to this. We're bringing some awareness to this, where we're looking at all the little things that are going on. And we're going to talk about many little things in just a minute. One of the things we have to understand is that for any change that we want to implement in our life, or anything we want to do, it's going to require a certain amount of energy, and it's going to require a certain amount of focus. If we don't have the energy and if we don't have the focus, getting over something or dealing with something is going to be a challenge. Now, this is to say, hey, I'm human too. Some days I don't want to do something, whether it be meet with clients, work on the podcast, whatever it be, hang out with my family. Sometimes I just want to say, you know what? I just want a break. Yeah, I get that sentiment all the time. But then if you do something that you love, why would you want to break from that? So then you start to look at your mindset. Do I really love this? Do I love the podcasting? Do I love my family? Do I love the hard work, with my clients? And it comes down to, I do. So what is the problem if I love it? Well, there's going to be a block. And that mental overload, it doesn't care what you love. It's almost like, I know you want to go to the gym, but I'm not going to give you the energy. I'm not going to give you the focus, because right now you're in dire straits. Right now, you are not in a good place. So you are just over capacity. It's like if you have a credit card, and let's say your capacity for the credit card, or your limit for the credit card, $5,000. So you have $5,000 on your credit card that you're able to use for credit, meaning it might be money you don't have, or you're trying to build your credit, so you're using it up to 10%, whatever. And then you will pay it off before the due date. Now, let's say you do not pay it off, and then you accrue $5,000 of credit card expenses. You're in debt now. Once you reach that $5,000, the credit card company can choose to either approve the purchase, or they can say, you're at your limit. We're not going to approve anything else. The same thing is true with your mind. When you are at your limit, that credit limit, when you're at your limit, when you're overloaded, your mind is going to say, I'm not going to cash what you're trying to purchase. So now we are in full panic mode. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. But yet your brain is not cooperating. Your life seems now overwhelmed, overloaded, out of control. What do? You don't have the energy. You don't have the funds, right? You don't have the focus for anything to occur. What do? Now, one of the things we have to do, and it sounds silly, is we have to look at how we got here. Michael, why do we have to look at how we got here? Because we have to reverse engineer the whole situation scenario. Because if you just got there all of a sudden, then you would probably know, oh, hey, I made a mistake here. Let me not do that again. Because what happens with individuals is that even if they can't pay off that debt of $5,000, they're going to keep on doing it and keep on accruing that $5,000. And they're going to keep on getting to the point of that $5,000 limit. And your brain is like, hey, I'm not cashing any more of your transactions. It's not going to work. Why are we continually doing something that's negative, where we might do a quick fix in the seasons that were good, and then we go back to the bad? Now, when we talk about this in the blog, right, it's going to be, I believe it's the second paragraph, right, where the second paragraph really goes into this idea of regaining control, okay? It's not like, hey, I'm in control. Okay, I'm on the ice. I'm slipping. I'm about to hit the barricade. I'm out of control. Luckily, I got back in control. You're not going to say, okay, let me get out of control again. But you know what people do? They go, oh, I'm just going to go back the same speed I was going in the same conditions that I was already in, and they're going to have the same hiccup. So it's like we are not paying attention to all the little signs that are basically yelling at us, saying, we need to focus, we need to pay attention. Now, there's going to come a point where you're going to be at a disadvantage, meaning you're going to be so overwhelmed, you're going to be out of resources, and you're not going to know what to do. Now, this is where a lot of people call me, right? A lot of people say, hey, Michael, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm stuck. I feel like I have all of these problems. And I'm like, why didn't you call me 3 months ago? Number one, right? 6 months ago, 9 months ago, right? Why didn't you call me at the inception? And of course, this idea of the mindset is you thought you could handle it. And I'm not saying that you can't handle it, but there's a way to handle things appropriately and there's a way to do things inappropriately, right? For example, you can change your car oil and you can throw the oil in your backyard, right? Yeah, sure. Mother Nature is going to take a hit. And it might be fine for the first time. But when you start to add it up the second time, the third time, the fourth time, you're going to start to have some big problems where you're just dumping this oil. You're not doing it right. You're not putting the oil where it needs to belong. This is all to say that when we get overloaded, when we get stressed, when we get burdened, we're not doing the things, or we're not putting the things in the right places. So it's going to keep on happening. It's going to keep on causing issues down the road. And we need to be the people to say, you know, I'm going to clean up this mess. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they have to get clear on their vision. They have to reflect on all the things that have happened. And then they have to put into work, because this is the most challenging bit. When you are overloaded, you have to do work. And you know that is counterproductive because you're overloaded. You don't want to do the work. So how can you train your mindset to want to do the work? How can you train yourself to be ready, get up, and stop carrying all of this unnecessary weight anymore? Well, I wish it was as easy as do this step, do that step, and then all of a sudden, everything is going to magically fix. One of the best methods I have found is it's systematic, where you start something, you start a process, and then it starts to get better. Think of it this way. When you want to clean your house, typically you start in a room, in an area, in a section. You're not going to say, okay, magic powers, clean the house. Okay. And then all of a sudden your house is clean. All right. I wish that was a thing. It's not. Even if you hire robots are going to clean a section of your home at a time. And the same thing is true with your mind. When your mind is overloaded, you have to basically create the sections of your life. Maybe career is a section of your life. Maybe family is a section of your life. And you can put family in different brackets. You could put your spouse, you could put your parents, you could put your siblings, you could put your children. And all of those different family units can cause different levels of stress. Maybe when you have kids and your kids are over here, going out, hanging out with the wrong kids, then you might say that's causing me a lot of stress. Maybe your parents are getting old and you have to take care of them. Maybe your partner is complaining that you're not spending enough time with them because you're too busy in your career working to provide for everyone. So this is kind of to say, now we're getting bogged down, right? We're trying to say, okay, I know all my sections. How can I start to manage them more properly? Now, this is going to be where you have to be honest with yourself and you have to be honest with the people around you, because there's going to be things that are going to take priority and things that are going to have to take the back burner. Now, I would love for your family not to take a back burner, but sometimes that's going to be the hit. If you have a career, maybe you are the boss, maybe you have a little bit more flexibility. But if you have a career and you're barely making it and you're living paycheck to paycheck, one of the things you're not going to want to lose is that career. So now that's another burden. You have two choices at this point: to either get really good at burdens or to say, let me start to work on the most important thing. Now, there is a snowball method where you can work on the least important things so you have less things to worry about. And you can say, I have the momentum to build up. Because you might say, working, with my wife to make sure we have a date night every single week, that's doable. With the kids, to make sure that they're hanging around the right friends, that for dinner time, we're going to make sure we are not on our phones or whatever. And we're going to communicate, right? Communication could be that. For work, you're going to possibly seek promotions or you're going to seek alternative work. Some people, they work a 9 to 5, and then after that, they go out to do Uber or Lyft or something along those lines just to make ends meet. The lifestyles that we're trying to live can be chaotic. Now, this is to say that we get to structure how we want to live. Think of it this way. You get to choose how many bedrooms you want in your house. You get to choose how many bathrooms you want in your house. You get to choose what size of lot you have. You want 1 acre, 2 acres, 10 acres, 100 acres, right? You have to ask yourself, what can you manage right now? Because if you think about it, if you can't keep your studio apartment clean, why in the world are you going to just think that you can keep a villa cleaned, where it's 4 or 5 bedrooms and 3 baths and a guest house? You're not going to be able to keep it clean. So you know that you're going to be tapped out at that studio level. So you have to figure out, well, what can I do at the studio level to make sure that if I wanted to expand, if I wanted to change, I can. And it's going to be a good change, not something I'm going to regret down the road. Because too many people are living in their regrets. They're living in their burdens. They're living in that mental overload. And we need to do our best to regain control. Now, one of the things that I do to regain control when I'm having mental overload is to take a step back. Now, when I take a step back, it does not mean I'm going to go sit down and watch Netflix. I'm going to go watch a movie. I'm going to go lay down and look at the ceiling. That is not what a step back means. It means if I'm doing 10 things, I'm going to focus on maybe the top 3 things that are going to be the best thing for me that day. And I'm going to make sure I do the hell out of it. Meaning, if I have to go to the gym as one of my top 3 things, I'm going to kill my gym workout. I'm not talking about like physical like murder. I'm talking about like it's going to be a really good workout. Now, this could be the same thing in my career, in my business, with my clients. If I have a meeting with a client, I might say, this meeting with my client, I'm going to have the best meeting with them. And then maybe I'm going to have the best date with my wife or the best time with my kids in the evening, right? I'm going to choose what I know I'm capable of. And if I get to that 3 mark and I go, okay, I did 3 things amazing, I might say, can I do a 4th? Let me do the 4th. Okay. And then I understand that there's going to be those 6 other things looking at me by the time I get to bed. And I'm going to say, that's tomorrow me problem. Okay. I know tomorrow's not like promised, but this is the idea of the mental overload is going to start to shift because now you're doing things at a high level. You're doing things like, hey, this is like really important for me to do and I'm getting it done. And then now you're going to invigorate yourself with this belief that you can do things. It's not so much of I can't do anything. Now it's the point of I'm doing the most important things. And then it's now to the point of why can't I do everything? Now, this is to say that there's a fine line between everything and the things that are important. Because most people think that everything is important. It's the same thing as if you're a business owner and you can basically have your secretary do some of the things that you're doing right now. whether it be cold calling, emails, reaching out to people. All of those things can be done by somebody else, right? What needs your attention? And if you are, like I said, overloaded, there's a lot of things that you need to bring attention to, because you're not going to have attention for what is going to be someone else's question to you. Hey, can you help me here? Can you do this for me? You're already tapped out. So there's a lot of unnecessary weight that we're carrying right now. And we have to do a good job at saying what we don't need to do. So if you have 10 things on your plate, figure out what you don't want. Figure out what's not worth it. I like to tell my wife this. I go, listen, if you want to eat bad, ask yourself, is it worth the calories? Ask yourself, is it worth the time on the treadmill? Ask yourself, is it worth the, your body adjusting or whatever, right? Ask yourself that question. Is it worth it? And maybe it is. Maybe you have your favorite cake and you're like, oh my God, I love this cake. It's so worth it. I don't care if I have to go to the gym to work this out. Now we know that we can't out-eat a bad diet, but we do it in moderation. And of course, when we're dealing with mental overload, things are going to have to be done in moderation. It's not going to be, like I said, we sweep everything under a rug, we throw everything in compartments and storage units, and then all of a sudden everything is clear. Because the moment you create space, if you don't do the work, you're going to allow that space to be filled with things that are going to cause more mental overload in the end. So we have to make sure that we're not allowing ourselves to become overloaded at every given point when we have some flexibility. So there's a lot of conversations that need to happen. We have to get clear on who we are, who we want to be, what we have to do. Now, we can, of course, read this blog. We can get a bit more insight on becoming clear, the mental clarity we have to do, developing the structures. The article is going to do that for you. It's going to give you the guide. Now, this is to say that maybe you don't want to do it yourself. Maybe you have read this, maybe you have tried it a week gone by and you said, you know what? I'm not regaining control. I'm out of control. And you feel as if you can't do it by yourself. This is when you ask for help. This is when you say, you know what? I need some support. And that's where we help individuals. You can head over to revenconcepts.com, get yourself a consultation, learn more how to create the clarity, learn more how to structure yourself, learn more how to allow that mental overload to dissipate in time. Sometimes it can be a very quick process, and sometimes it's going to be one of those lasting things where it's almost as if we're trying to get back in shape. Because the energy that we need, the focus that we need, it can happen instantly in some regards, but oftentimes it's going to require the focus of the individual who's trying to regain control to pay attention once more. So if you're ready to pay attention, check out this article, When Life Feels Heavy, Understanding Mental Overload and How to Regain Control. This article is going to be a great starting point for you if you are in that mental overload state. And if you have tried and you have not succeeded, and the stress and the frustration and the stagnation have been basically bearing down on you still, like I said, RevenConcepts.com, we're going to be able to support you all along the way. Now, if I could give you one bit of advice when it comes to mental overload, is to not allow it to come into your life. But we know that that is going to be hard to happen, especially in our world today, especially with all the digital things, with all the news, with all the mayhem. We need to do something for ourselves. And this is where the tip comes in, or what I would like for you to do. I want you to only fill your life with the things that are most important to you. And I already mentioned this, but this is going to be that last bit of wisdom that I want you to walk away with. Fill your life with the most important things. I understand you might think your friends are important, but are your friends more important than your kids, for example? Probably not, right? Now, you might say, is your parents more important than your kids? Now, that's going to be a hard thing to juggle, right? You're going to say, well, like my kids are my everything, right? My parents are my everything. So like, what do we do there, right? And this is where we have to, again, figure out who needs us now rather than everyone needs us all at once. Because if you think about it, there is an order to things. So if you can do things in the right order, it doesn't matter how they get done. It's going to be off your mind. It's going to be off your shoulders. And the world is going to say, wow, you're basically conquering all the challenges, all the circumstances I'm giving you. It's because you're doing it in a structured way. You have the energy for it, and you are getting clear on what's important. So this is all to say, get clear, don't allow overload to rule your life anymore, and then to start to work on things that are going to help mitigate any future problems from happening so your mind can stay clear and focused on all the things that you will want to accomplish in your life.